I'm Mackenzie Lane from the Burbank International Film Festival, and today we begin our interview series, Beyond the Frame, with director, writer, actor, and producer Paul Tully. Paul wrote and directed one of this year's official feature film selections, Replica. Replica is a love story with a heartbeat of redemption. It's what the industry may label as a gritty crime drama, but it's so much more. And I'm so excited to be speaking with Paul today. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
How are you? And where are you tuning in from today?
I'm good. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're so happy to have you. And I can see, I think those are screenwriting notes behind you on your wall.
Yeah. This is a project that I just finished actually shooting down in Mexico. This is a short film. This is a little more lighthearted and yeah, it's a beautiful story as well. Different than Replica.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see it. That's so cool. Well, let's dive into it. All about Replica. For people who might not be familiar, tell us about Replica.
Yeah, Replica. Replica's my baby. Replica's my first, my directorial debut on a feature film. I wrote and directed it, and Replica started off as a play. I come from a theater background. I primarily started as an actor, trained as an actor. I had co-founded a theater company in LA called Urban Theater Movement. Through the years of working in the theater and working with great, collaborators and artists, I kind of discovered my voice as a writer, started writing, theater, one acts, stuff like this. And Replica was one of the one acts. It was a three-person one act play in 2013 that I had written, much different than the film. It was more of a comedic play, more of a shock value play. And it just grew. It ended up, I wrote a full length, and it was because one of the original Tanya kept nudging me. I was in New York doing some conservatory training as an actor, and she kept nudging me, write the full length. And then I developed the full length in 2015. It got produced multiple times. It did incredible, got a lot of attention as a play. A lot of celebrities came out. People just seemed to really resonate with the full length play of Replica. And through that, I got signed to a literary manager that had come out and seen it. They asked me to adapt the screenplay, which I did. And, now comes the film.
Wow, that is so cool how it's come full circle 10 years from when you wrote the play. Now it's a feature film.
Right. It's been a process.
And can you tell our viewers like a brief synopsis of what it's all about?
Sure. I think I wrote the synopsis as like Replica's a 72-hour roller coaster ride. But to be honest, the heart of Replica is about redemption and acceptance. What I did was I wanted to write two characters from complete opposite worlds. So, I happen to use, what I consider one of the most, vile, things of white supremacy. So I took a neo-Nazi white supremacist, drug addict, right? And I want to give humanity, no matter who I'm writing or playing or directing. I bring humanity to those characters. So I took the Mickey character, which is this broken white supremacist, low-level meth dealer, and I took a beautiful African American trans woman, and I bring them together. And I figured, I've seen so much division in the country, not just today, it's been coming, it's been happening. And I figured, how can we get a conversation going, with people from complete opposite ideologies, and bring them into a room and see if I could bring some kind of conversation. And that's what Replicas is about. It's about finding your lowest, darkest moments in each other as humans and finding a common ground, an understanding and acceptance. We don't always have to agree with anybody, but to understand that there's usually a backstory to people and their struggles and their journey. Not to forgive necessarily, just to understand. We don't have to accept everybody, but to have that heartbeat is important. I don't think we could progress as people without that. So that's what Replica is. It's taking people in their lowest moments and bringing some vibrance to them.
Oh, I love that. That's so powerful. Wow, we need more stories like that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, they're out there. They're out there, and people like you and Burbank Film Festival that actually are giving opportunities. I have to commend you because Replica, we finished over a year ago, and we wanted to do the festival circuit, and you're one of two festivals that took a risk on it, and other festivals. I've talked to directors and stuff, and literally they felt the content was maybe it's not that the movie they thought the quality was great. I mean, it's great quality. We did a great job. It's just the content they felt wasn't as digestible for everybody. And we did this in New York at a festival, and it was received exceptionally well. Standing ovation, so that we were the opening night film. And that's the thing with Replica. It seems that when people watch it, same with the play. The play got turned down by every major theater in New York. All the edgy theater companies I sent it to that I'm friends with that do edgy work. We're like, oh man, our patrons can't watch a play with a swastika on the thing, a neo-Nazi, and you're giving humanity to these kind. They just were afraid of it. And I produced it myself first before it got multiply produced, and it just knocked it out of the park. People were like, wow, this is different. So that's the thing I know about it. It's the kind of film that it's going to have its audience when it's seen, but to get people to take that chance is risky because we are dealing with some pretty heavy, polarizing issues in the film.
It's interesting because it was received so well when it did go to theaters as a play, but it's been difficult even still 10 years later as a feature to get it into festivals. Like I was shocked that you said that. I didn't know that. So that's really interesting. Were you in New York when you wrote the play, or were you in LA?
No, in LA. So I am a New Yorker. I mean, I'm originally born in LA, but I grew up in New York. My dad's from New York, so we moved there when I was a baby. But so I work in New York a lot, but no, I primarily am living in LA now. So most of the work I've done theater around the world, but the play was done, it was all LA. There's also an LA based script. So as
Yeah.
you know, it's also a homage to LA, and it's very LA driven, not so East Coast. It's kind of a, even in my casting, I made sure to cast LA kind of royalty and old school 90s. I wanted it to feel like you're in the 90s, but even though it's a current topic, like with transgenders and but I wanted you to feel like you were in the 90s. Like even in my actors that I cast were 90s actors. That was all intentional, so hopefully that comes across. I don't know.
No, it definitely did. And that's perfect because my next question is about the casting. I mean, it has a stellar cast: Alexandra Gray, Jeremy Luke, and Academy Award nominee Mickey Rourke, just to name a few of them. So what was that process like, bringing that cast together?
Yeah, no, great question. I'm fortunate. That's one thing I'm fortunate through all my years at theater, and I like to say that I take theater very serious, and I'm respected as a craftsman, I believe. So I work with great actors. Every actor in this I cast personally. Aside from two that we did have a casting director, and she was like, man, you make my job easy, man. It was pretty much everybody I personally knew and I've worked with before. Aside from maybe two or three of the actors that the casting director actually, brought and they audition. I mean, so yeah, I mean, Jeremy Luke, and Alexandra Gray, my two lead actors, are both represented by the same management company as me, which is a Zero Gravity. Jeremy, I've done multiple projects with. He also played Mickey in the play. He's not the original Mickey. The original Mickey I gave a cameo to at the end of the movie, which is great. That was important to me to get my three original actors from 2013 are all in the movie. I'm that kind of person that if I get an opportunity, I remember the people who bled with me in the beginning. And we did this play in a 25-seat house in 2013. So when I got, the feature done, I've made sure to reach out to those actors and get them in. I couldn't promise lead roles, but I got them in. But yeah, so to answer your question, Jeremy Luke and Alexandra Gray are both rep by the same company. So, that was easy. Also, Jeremy's a personal friend of mine. Noel G, who plays Paul, Noel G has he's been in, I don't know, he has 200 IMDb credits, and he plays Hector and everything. He's incredible. He's awesome guy. And I mean, he's done from Training Day to Liar Liar to Batman, but he's also rep by Zero Gravity. So that was also in-house. Mickey Rourke was different. That was not, he's not rep by us. So that was us reaching out and getting the script to him, and getting him to. Mickey Rourke was always on my dream. I mean, I grew up in Greenwich Village. I mean, so he did the Pope of Greenwich Village. I grew up being a huge fan of Mickey Rourke. So getting him was something I always dreamed. So we went after it, me and my team, and we got him. But the list goes on. Nick Turturro, I just interviewed Nick Turturro yesterday on my podcast. He's incredible. He's great. Glenn Plummer, who's a legend in the 90s films that like Menace to Society and Colors and all these movies that I grew up loving, these urban, he played OG Bobby Johnson in South Central. So I thought I'd reach out to Glenn Plummer, and I wanted him specifically to play the father, because I thought, wow, what a beautiful role to see him in, aside from his iconic roles of being these gang members. And and he's just a tremendous actor as well. So
yeah, that's so interesting. And I love that you got your dream of getting Mickey Rourke in the film. Like, you grew up watching him and you really got like your dream cast. It sounds like it just all came together, from the play to you made a short film of Replica to the feature version of it. That's just so cool.
I'm very blessed with Replica because I was able to get the financing, but here's the thing. They gave me 100% creative control. It's not a usual thing. I mean, I had investors that loved me, that cared about my project, that cared about my vision. Listen, I'm going to be honest. There's things about Replica I could do re-edits on. There were things I knew in the editing room, like, we don't really need this monologue. We could cut this. I had a great editor who has edited huge studio films. I mean, he's edited movies all the way back from the 90s, and he's great. And we worked closely together. I was in every session. But the thing with this project was it was so personal to me, and those monologues meant so much. That's why they're a little long. It was a play, and a lot of them are personally from my life. So I wanted they let me do that. They let me pick the people I wanted to cast. So I literally went for people like Glenn Plummer, who I grew up. I loved Menace to Society. These are the movies that inspired me to do this, and I literally was able to go out and get these people. And James Russo, who I was a huge Donnie Brasco fan. I grew up in Greenwich Village. He did China Girl in the 80s. I mean, these were like actors from back in the day that I was a huge fan of. So it was such a great experience to go out and get them and reach out to them, have my manager contact or the casting director and take meetings with them. It's really great, once in a lifetime experience,
That's just so cool, and really inspiring, I'm sure, to a lot of other filmmakers, that if you have a story you believe in, it might take 10 years, but you can make it and tell it as a feature film. That's just so
That's
cool.
right.
Cool that you had such creative freedom. Why do you think that was? Was it from the play's success or the short film that you had to show them, or why do you think they gave you so much creative liberty?
Oh man, great. That's the golden question. Great question. And for the filmmakers out there, here's the thing. It's kind of cliche to be like, I'm an artist and I need full creativity. No, you have to be able to collaborate. And I work on multiple projects. So the people, there's certain things that you need to be strong on. I think the reason I had so much support on this is people knew how much this project resonated to me and how much of it was real from my life. That was number one important. So the people that really, especially the seed investors, before getting Mickey Rourke, once we got like Mickey Rourke, it was much easier to get people to be like, yeah, I'll throw in $100,000. Like, they want their name. Mickey's pretty guaranteed. You'll probably get some eyes on it. But before that, to get the seed money for any young independent, young meaning experience, not age, for any independent filmmakers, the thing is, when people know that you believe in it with every fiber of your heart, that's number one. I think that's important. When you go to anybody, also another thing, I have a track record of independent things. My theater company I started, I co-founded with a woman from South Central, and we did incredible theatrical plays. So all my investors have been around for the whole journey. They've seen the work, me going to Edinburgh to do a play with $87 in my pocket, and when I got there, I was like flying. That's just, I've put it all on the line, for my craft and training in New York and Meisner intensives. And people knew it's like, no, Paul's serious. It wasn't a question of that. Like, am I going to invest money and lose it? It's like, this was like, I don't want to lose money, but if I do, he deserves this. And they had seen the play, of course. It wasn't just, hey guys, believe in me. They were at the play, standing ovations every night. The whole cast of like This Is Us and all these huge shows were coming to our play. Like there were nights we had like huge Oscar-winning celebrities there, that were like, so they seen that. I mean, it wasn't, I don't want to make it like it was just my pitch. There was a history of the play and people being like, I'll throw in 50 grand, which is insane, and you get enough people to do that. Next thing you know, you have enough to make an independent film. It was a track record. So what I'm saying without rambling is whatever you're doing, do it with every bit of your soul. Go all in. If it's a one-act play, when we did the one-act play, we went all in. These people seen it from then. And they've seen all the other projects I'm doing. It's not like 10 years I've just been working on Replica. I mean, I've been getting a lot of projects off the ground on the independent. I haven't crossed over yet to being a studio director, right? I'm still grinding. So I think it was that. It was people believed in me more than anything. I think people loved me and were like, no, Paul, you know what? These are like people that I've known my whole life, friends, family. Once they put up the seed, then it was me going out to other people. Like I went to everybody, like associates, the gym I go to, the owner of the gym, took meetings with them. I went to everybody who possibly I could go to, especially once I got Mickey Rourke. Because then a lot of people were like, hey, Mickey Rourke, I'm like, look, you get your name on these credits. I'll put in 2,500 because it's cool to them, right? They could tell their friends, hey, I produced, I was a producer. I was an investor on a movie with Mickey Rourke. What's 2,500? You can't think like 2,500 is a lot. No, it's what's 2,500? I took meetings like, what's $5,000, man? When are you going to be on a movie with an Oscar nominee? And that's how I did it. And I just relentlessly took meetings with people and eventually we had the money.
Marathon, not a sprint. That's such great advice for aspiring filmmakers. Like this is not just one body of work. It's an accumulation of years of all of your work and your connections and relationships. And it's so interesting to hear that a lot of the monologues were inspired from your life, because to be honest with you, watching the film, those are the parts of the film that stand out to me, were the monologues. So I'm so glad
Thank you
that you didn't cut them. And the acting of those monologues is just absolutely incredible. So I'm so glad they gave you creative freedom, because you don't see a lot of monologues in movies like that anymore. There's usually like one monologue moment, and this movie had multiple, and it was so powerful.
You're right. I mean, it's a death sentence. I mean, it's just not wanted. It's not the formula, And I just literally had a conversation with some filmmakers last night. I was doing a podcast and I had a bunch of filmmakers, and that's what we were just talking off camera. And that's the thing. We were talking about, like, one of my friends just did a indie film. They just got distribution, but they were saying how, like, oh man, they should have cut it down to exactly 90 instead of 96 minutes and all the formulas. And those were the things I wanted to avoid, because I'll tell you what, you only get one replica. Like, I know now everything I just did and just spoke on, I can't do again. I can't go to everybody to get 2,500 every time I want to do a movie, or 50, right? This was a once. That's what I meant by once in a lifetime. Not that I won't work and direct a film again. You probably are only going to get creative control like that, where people are willing and you could take a hit on however much once. You know what I mean? After that, there are formulas. Like, you got to cut those monologues. People get bored. But what's great is I had this, and I'm glad you said that, because I do believe it worked. But in the eyes of when you go to a distributor, they're not thinking. They're just thinking formulas, like 90 minutes tight, comedy in the second act. Your arc is here, and I don't want to do that. I just want to make stuff that I know could hit the heart, at least with Replica. Maybe with future films, some studio wants me, hey Paul, just get this to here. Maybe that's how it's going to be. But with Replica, it was mine. And everybody who invested said, dude, this is yours. We're doing this because we believe in you. So I went full on how I want to see it, how I loved it, how it moved me. And I'm glad to hear you say that. And hopefully other people, hopefully it works.
Yeah, it worked. And the casting for the people to tell those monologues and tell those stories made it all the more powerful. So job well done. And I want to get into the actual making of it, bringing it all together. So from writing the script to shooting the film to post-production, how long did the process take once you knew you were going to make it into a feature?
Fast. So we did move very fast. I would say you mean from the moment like the script was locked in, it's like, okay, we're making the movie, or you mean from when I decided to adapt the script?
Let's say from the time you started to adapt. I'm sure that was a long process. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it actually wasn't that long. I think we started adapting the screenplay from a play, and I believe it was 2018, end of 2018, I believe, to 2019. It wasn't as long as you'd imagine, even though 2013, that's what I mean. The journey wasn't like 2013, we're going to make this movie and it took 10 years. Sometimes people say that, like, dude, you didn't give up. And I'm like, I'd like to say that credit, but it wasn't really that. It was like I wrote in 2013. I also wrote 3 other things we were working on, went to Edinburgh. Then one actress was like, do the full length. Did that in 2015 while I was booking acting jobs, doing little co-stars here and there. Just busy. It wasn't just Replica. Replica was just always there. So to answer your question, I think end of 2018, it was like, okay, we're going to adapt this to a screenplay. We're going to make it. Then the pandemic hit. So it took me about, I don't know exactly, maybe a month to 2 months to finish the script from play to screenplay. Then there were readings I started doing during the pandemic. We would do readings on Zoom. So I'd get actors, listen to it, do rewrites. The pandemic happened and that's it. I iced it. I was like, it wasn't really important. The world was ending, you know. It was like I got into fitness. I gained all my weight back, which is terrible. But at the time, I got into marathon. So I started running Ironmans, like triathlons, lost 115 pounds. I like really got into fitness during for that year. I wasn't working on Replica. And here's what happened. My seed investor had called me. He's an entrepreneur. He's also a cousin of mine, but he's very wealthy, very like savvy businessman. He called me and he was like, hey man, I'm into like COVID tests. So I just bought a whole, shipment. I have a warehouse full, because this is during the pandemic. He goes, I want you to talk to your Hollywood friends at the studio. Maybe I could like get the contract to test the actors. I'm like, my Hollywood friends, I'm like, well, I don't know anybody at the store. You out of your mind? I do one-line co-stars. You know what I mean? But in his mind, I'm like this. He goes, dude, you're the best salesman I know. I'll pay you a commission. You get these contracts. So I have no interest in doing that, right, Melanie? I'm like, so I said, listen, how much money did you make last year? I pulled a Wolf of Wall Street on this. How much money you make last month? I made $36,000 just on the COVID test last month. I said, you made $36,000? I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sell COVID tests for you. I'm a playwright. I'm a screenwriter. I have Replica. You've seen the play. I have the feature done. You finance my movie. You made so much money. You're a big shot. You made $36,000 in 1 month. So I basically put that on her, and he got quiet. Like, he's like, this guy, I know. He's like, I'm the best salesman, right? So he goes, all right, man. He goes, the script's done. You believe it? I said, yeah. He said, let's set up a meeting. So that's when we really knew. Like, once I met with him and he said, I'll put up the seed money to lock in the first name, Mickey, all that. That was 2020, end of 2020, 2021. That's when we knew. And then it took me a year to do the whole process. I shot the film in 12 days in a pickup.
What?
So it was gun and run. Insane. So I'm very proud of 12 days. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, this short film I did took me 5 days. So we knocked Replica. It was just me and my DP, the whole team, man, the AC. We were just like 2-shot average. Everything was 2-shot average. 1, 2, move on. Over the show, 1, 2, move on. Some shots we did, like with Mickey, the lead, and with Tanya, we gave them maybe 4 at tops, never more than 4.
Wow.
Everybody else was 2-shot goes. So every performance you see from the emotional, that was all in 2 shots at most. like Felipe's monologue where
Yeah,
he does this whole, that's 2 shots. I
that
would
one
just,
really stands out.
yeah, and I would take my actors, because I'm an actor and I'm a theater guy. I think of myself as an actor's director. So it was a lot of me working with them before the cameras are like, come on, let's go for a walk, right? While they're setting up the lights, and just working with you and doing warm-ups and just getting like talking about where we're going with it, what I want, but then giving you the freedom to get to where I need you that way. So it was a lot of me working with that. I love working with the actors way more. I let my camera guys, I let my DPs get busy. I'm like, look, this is how I see it. I'm not even that. I want it gritty and seedy in the motel room, and I trust that they can do what they. I know QT Tarantino always says it's not your job to do. Your job is to hire people that could bring your vision to life. I'm a big believer in that. Hire teams that you could trust. Same with actors. That's why I like the hire actors I've worked with, because it's people I know can get there, and I could trust them to get there. And I just tell them this is what I'm looking for, and I trust you're going to get there. If you don't get there, then you don't get there, right? Then I pivot and I go, well, you got to a place you could get to, and that's good enough. And then we move on, and my job, then I go to the editing room, and we make you look as good as we can.
Well, your actors, they all showed up to play ball.
Yeah, yeah, no, they did
So
a great
good.
job.
And I love the story with your cousin. Talk about turning the tables on him. That was your
Yeah,
little.
he'll watch this and be like, "That's not how it happened." No, he's a great guy. He definitely believed. That's the way it happened in my head. No, I mean that is how it happened. But I also know he believed in the project.
Yeah.
He's no dumb guy. He's a very sharp man, and he's a businessman and an entrepreneur. And hey, at the end of the day, it's good to have some people like that around in your life that aren't going to lose their socks, like all indie filmmakers. I mean, it was a community event. It was family, it was friends, it was, it wasn't studios, it was people who believed in it. So
Yeah, that makes it all the more special.
yeah,
That
yeah.
it actually got made. That's so cool. What is one thing you hope viewers walk away from this film with?
The most arrogant answer in the world is I made this film for me. I really did. I really did. This was a therapeutic process, and this was a lot of my life, my pain, and me overcoming things. Listen, I just gotta say it. I wrote this film off a real life experience in the '90s. I was a young, street kind of, thought I was cool. At a nightclub one night, and a gay man hit on me. And where I grew up, and when I grew up, with the kind of guys I grew up with, that's unacceptable. And I got in an argument at this nightclub, and I said some really vile things. And next thing I know, there's about 60 gay guys. I had no idea this nightclub were ex felons who come out of jail that are like gang members that are gay. And they need a place to go to these after hours. And a friend had brought me there. We just wandered into this club one night. So now I have about 60 guys. Like, yo, what'd you say? Tattooed on the face, like cholos. And I'm like, what? It was like I was in the Twilight Zone. All of a sudden, everybody's. So my mouth wrote a check that my body was about to pay a big price for. So at the time, I'm intoxicated. So the shirt comes off. Now we're outside. I'm like, God, take all you mother. You know what I mean? I'm yelling homophobic slurs. And out of nowhere, like Batman, a transvestite jumps in the middle, stops me from getting killed, if not beat to a pulp, but maybe killed. She had no reason to do that. I didn't know her. I didn't know, she gets in and she says, he's with me. I said, I'm not with. She said, shut up. You're with me. And they're like, he ain't with you, Boomer. And she goes, he's with me, to like the head guy. They go, well, you better get his ass out of here. So now I shut my mouth, because now I'm sobering up a little, like, dude, there's like 60. We leave. I never seen her again. And years later, when I was writing this story, I thought, why would she do that for a guy that was saying such horrible things about, gay people? And there was no reason except humanity, decency. She just didn't want to see somebody killed. And I thought, damn, I got to write this. So I think what I wrote was like this love story that never happened. I mean, but it was like, what if two people like her and me, I'm yelling these things, I'm from a street type of lifestyle, and she's from whatever lifestyle she's from. But for whatever reason, she simply felt, I don't want to see this guy, no matter how vile he is, get hurt. And it changed me. So I thought to myself, if I can, it's like Stallone, if I could change and you could change, we all could change. Like, if that could change me, I hope that when people watch my movie on both sides of the aisle, whether blue or red, Democrat, Republican, whatever you believe in, religious, non-religious, atheist, gay, straight, that you could leave with like, man, sometimes it's the people you never would imagine that could help make you a better person. And that goes both ways. You could be a left wing, and it's some right wing Trump radical that just does something that changes you, vice versa. So I just hope that people leave the theater and think about that, and think about when you see someone opposite of you, what do you have in common? And it's just compassion. So that's what I hope they take from it.
I can see things that you put into the film, like the strength of Tanya's character when she stands up for Mickey, like
right,
just so
yeah.
cool. It makes it that much more powerful to hear like where that came from in your life. So thank you for sharing that. And I can't wait for people to watch the film. So what's next for you?
Thanks for asking. So right now I just finished a short film that's in the festival circuits now. It just premiered at LA Shorts, was our first festival, which is great. It's an Oscar qualifying festival. So, and now it's going to New York in October. Also, I don't know how much I could talk about because of the strike, but that's happening. But there's also a feature film that I am working on now. I just sent in to the first round, so I'm taking it to investors. And what I'm real excited about, I'm doing a podcast. I created this podcast with two other people for a company called National Core. So National Core produces the podcast. They're an affordable living development company. They have 40,000 residents and housing throughout the country. So I travel around the country and I meet with inspiring people from all walks of life. It's not a Hollywood podcast. I have met with some actors because in my network, but I meet with entrepreneurs, I meet with plumbers, I meet with barbers, I meet with veterans, I meet with people who run nonprofits and that are just doing exceptional, inspiring work. And the point is to inspire the residents of this low-income company how to go from point A to point B. So if they're watching and they go, wow, I want to be an electrician, great. This episode, I'm meeting with this electrician and we're going to talk about how this person found their inspiration and became that. It's called Finding Your Inspiration. FY podcast. Please go to YouTube and subscribe. I have about 40 episodes in the can. We just dropped our first episode 3 weeks ago. It's a beautiful project and we have some great interviews. So Finding Your Inspiration on YouTube. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm constantly finding ways to be creative.
For anyone that can't make it to the film festival, is there another way they can see Replica in the future?
If everything works out right, we have been made offers on the film. So we do have distributors that have made official offers to us. We're going to wait till after the festival before we make our decision. We also have some other distributors, I think, coming to the festival to see the film. So keep an eye out for Replica.
If you would like to see Replica, it will be screening at the festival Friday, September 22nd at 8 p.m. at the AMC 16 in Burbank. And it will be followed by a Q&A with Paul and some of the other filmmakers. For tickets and more info, you can visit burbankfilmfest.org. Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, share your heart for Replica and filmmaking and storytelling. We appreciate you, and we're so honored to show Replica at the Burbank Film Festival.
Thank you so much. I had a great time, and I'll see you soon.